let me start off by saying that we're really looking forward to you coming to the UK. Friday the 27th to Sunday the 29th of November. And the seminar is on earth healing, process work, deep ecology, and the role of the earth in healing trauma, depression, and sexuality. Well, big title. Great title. So I was one thing I thought would be interesting would be if you could give a sense of how you feel that the earth has a role in healing trauma.
Well, there's a lot of things. One is that the earth energy in itself is just healing. And and so, you know, we know that if we go to a beautiful place on the earth, we just feel better. And one of the reasons I think for that is that it connects us to something more eternal and something bigger than ourselves. And so what we can do is we can use the perspective of the earth. We can see through the eyes of the earth, which gives us a much bigger perspective. And from that position, we can then look at the trauma and know how best to work with it. You know, one of the things about being in trauma is you usually have very little meta-position that can reflect on what's happening. And so using the earth as a super meta-position allows us access to a bigger perspective.
And so that bigger perspective, are you saying in a way that then we operate, one of the problems with trauma is that we're operating from a smaller perspective?
Yes, and a lot of healing makes the perspective even smaller. Then we go in and we define the person and we help them define themselves as some kind of victim of trauma, some kind of permanent traumatized human being. And so what we need to balance that is a healing that gives that person access to their whole self. And you need a way to step out of the trauma to be able to see the bigger picture. How can I say it? It's sort of like if you're caught, imagine you're caught in a thick storm and you can't see in front of you. And you lose perspective of where you are. But then imagine if you could go up in a small plane that could see the whole area.
Yeah.
That's like what we're doing, except instead of going up into the air, we're going down to the earth.
Yeah, very interesting. So some people actually, I was just thinking that I've heard stories of people who've actually also had a connection with the earth from a very young age.
Yes.
And it's been very important to them through like difficult childhood, for example.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Some people would go to a certain spot, or also certain animals help people reconnect with the earth. I've met many, many people, for example, sex abuse victims and heavy trauma victims who, by connecting with horses, can reconnect to their bodies and themselves. And so nature herself and the animal kingdom reminds us of the earth and helps us to reconnect. And our bodies are like our earth. And so the more we can reconnect to the earth, we connect to our earth, which is our bodies, and we get back into our bodies. The more trauma we have, the more dissociated we are, the more out of our bodies. So even though I read somewhere someone said that we have an incredible overpopulation thing, but really also based on who's really in their bodies, we have a terrible underpopulation thing because we've all been through so much trauma.
Interesting. So that's what you were talking about there relates to what when you say earth-based sensuality, you've described the seminar as partly focusing on earth-based sensuality.
Yeah, that a lot of the work that comes from tantric and other methods that I'm trying to bring into process work more emphasize getting down deep into our bodies. And for most of us, a lot of where we are is way up in our head, up in sort of like the sky. And to get down into our legs and our hips and our pelvises and our genitals and back into our bellies, and really to be able to feel our bodies is very important. And also, I think it has to do with why we can so easily abuse the earth, because we ourselves are so abused at times that we don't notice so much what we're doing, especially to the earth. Mm-hmm. It's like an extension of ourselves.
Right. There's one other area that I was interested in, because the seminar is also going to focus on depression, and I was wondering if you consider there to be a connection between modern levels of depression and our relationship with the earth.
I do. I mean, one of the most common things that I've seen, if people really follow their bodies in depression, is the depression feels like it's pulling them to the ground. And so if you ask somebody to, how they feel in depression, they'll often put their head down. And if they continue to follow that, they often will put their heads to the ground. That itself is interesting, because maybe behind a lot of depression is an attempt to take us back down to the earth itself. And I've seen that very helpful to people in depression, to let them go all the way down and reconnect with the earth, and then their life force and their energy starts to move again. So, and that life force is what gives us vitality. It's the source of our sexual energy, and it's the source of our creativity. So it's very, very important work. And again, especially in indigenous cultures, the native peoples knew that. They had the sense that the earth was our source of nourishment. It was like our mother. And they knew that the well-being of the earth and their well-being were intimately connected. So we're helping people get back down to that level of deep connection where they realize that they and the earth are one.
Thanks, Gary. And just one last thing, really, would be to ask you, if people come on the seminar, what might they expect? How might it look? What will they be experiencing?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we would for sure work with people. I would work with people in the middle, in a seminar kind of style, and let them experience some of these things themselves. People might work on a depression or a trauma or their sexuality or whatever, and we would do the kind of I would do the kind of process work I always do and we've always done together, but I would be adding on this element of calling in the powers of the earth itself and the connection to the earth to do the healing. And then we would also do that in dyads, and we would have lots of meditation, because for me, the best way I know to connect to the earth is by centering myself and meditating. We do a lot of inner work. And then we'd probably also do what we call a group process, which would mean that we would work on, as a group, some of our feelings and issues around our connection to the earth and things like that. And also many times then we begin to get into social issues and the way that everything is connected, that our bodies, the earth's process, and social issues are all connected. So when we do that kind of group process, we get into that, and we might also work on deep ecology issues and stuff like that, and politics through group process. So it's a real combination from going to the deepest inner place to going outward into world issues, and we'll touch on all of those in a 3-day seminar.
Well, thanks, Gary. Really looking forward to seeing you in November.
Thank you, Mark.
Fascinating.
Always
to
a
hear
pleasure.
Your ideas. Yes.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, and you have a great community there, so it'll be wonderful to bring some work together.